Gus Bradley understands the challenge of playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hell, they played the Jaguars in the season opener. He knows how that offense works. He knows what Trevor Lawrence tries to get done. He knows Travis Etienne has got to be stopped. Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley. That offensive line has got to be attacked successfully. You got to put pressure on Lawrence. He knows all those things. So what are the Colts going to do to make those things happen on Sunday? We talked to Gus Bradley today.
I mean, he plays hard. He has a really good understanding. He's seeing things well right now. But at the same time, the Mike position is going to have a chance to be around the ball a lot in our style of defense. So, it's that part of it, but I think he's bringing it to life a little bit. The way he's playing and the style that he's playing, he has a really good understanding of his fits and issues. He studies, he prepares, and it's allowing him to play pretty fast right now for us.
Is there kind of an old school element to his game, where he can mix it up? And
yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we talk about fast physical ball out, right? But you can put clips of him playing fast, and there's multiple clips where you can show him playing physical. So that part of it, there is that mentality of getting to the ball in an angry manner. And he seems to demonstrate that. I could, it's one thing to talk about it, but I could pull out clips to support that.
Thomas? Thomas?
Yeah. Start next Friday.
We'll go to James.
Gus, how do you think Jaylon Jones fared in his first game out there? And then obviously what went into the decision to give him that opportunity?
Well, he's even through training camp, he does a good job for us. I think both those young corners have a very aggressive mindset. With that, I'm meaning that they're very competitive. They've displayed to us thus far that they're both tough. They play with toughness. They're willing tacklers. They're willing to compete at the line of scrimmage, and they're willing to complete on deep balls. And I think, we're quick to react. I think even myself on, hey, you're going to play with some young players and there's going to be some mistakes. And I think that is accurate. But I can think of two plays where we weren't quite on the details of it, like the one JuJu had in the end zone where it should have been an interception. He actually adjusted because he saw a breakdown and went back and played that. So for every maybe bust, there was a cover that he made. So that was great to see. And you're seeing the same things with Jaylon. You saw towards the end of the game, we clouded Hopkins at the end, and we put Jaylon over there. And he was over there clouding at times. So he is that physical type player for us. So I thought he fared pretty well for his first showing.
Chat.
Gus, back to Zaire for a minute. When you got here, I mean, you evaluate the roster. He had started like 4 games, 2 in each season, really hadn't done much on defense. What did you see did you see this, or you really couldn't see this on the short resume he had?
Sure. I'll speak based on how I remember it. I remember, one of the first things you do, Chappie, you come in, you look at all your personnel. And really the position coach does it. Richard will take a look at all the linebackers, Milo all the DBs, Nate all the D linemen, and then we write reports on them. And I can remember Richard Smith coming into me and going, hey, you need to look at this Zaire Franklin now. For the style of which we play, he really fits in well with it. And I like the way he's aggressive and physical and, how he attacks the ball. And there's a lot to him. And so I remember Richard Smith bringing him to my attention before I even had a chance to watch film on him. So I think that, there was an idea that he would probably have a really good chance to operate in the system. And we were really excited about seeing him in the system.
Thanks, Gus.
Yep.
Raven.
You just kind of touched on JuJu and Jaylon Jones and what you've seen from them over the past few weeks, but they didn't play week one. They're replacing Dallas Flowers and DJ on that outside position. So just what do you want to see from them this week? Because you've already talked about it, how the Jags have opponent passing game. So what do you want to see them to do to try to contain it?
Well, I mean, they're up. Every week is challenges, right? I mean, last week we talked about a couple of their receivers, and now this week it'll be the same. This is a really, really good receiving core. And, they've got multiple ways to hurt you in the passing game. So it'll be a great challenge for them. So it's a whole new set of issues that come up, and it's that preparation part. They got to study the receivers. And, I think there's one thing studying the scheme, and that's what DBs do. They study the scheme. But for corners, it's also, the types of releases, the style of routes they run. So it's that individual time that they need to spend watching the receivers that I think, we got to keep building with those younger guys.
Nate?
Hey Gus, I'm just curious where you feel like Dio Adengbo's kind of taking the biggest jump from, now compared to like when you got here.
Yeah, I think just consistency, Nate. He's he is a physical. He's playing very tough for us right now, setting the edge. We were rotating him, and then with Quiddy went down, his numbers went up, and so we're asking more of him. And he's doing a really good job. If Dio has a certain edge about him where he's playing with that edge, he's a really, really good player for us. And I think that's what he's developed, maybe compared to earlier, when we were with him. He's got that edge about him where he's out there just to prove something. And I think you see that in his play. So we just need to keep that edge. He needs to keep that edge.
Steven?
Hey Gus, Chap actually took my question about Zaire, but I actually have to take it a step further. He's a very diligent guy who I know before you got here, he wasn't playing on defense, but he just really embraced special teams and went all the way in on that. Is there kind of a lesson for young guys to look at a guy like Zaire who waited a long time to get his turn, and found the way to be valuable to the team, and then that patience has paid off for him?
Right. I think I can share this with you. And I would say that our defensive players would say is consistent with what words come out of my mouth. I'm a big believer, as I think all of us are, that when you give and ask nothing in return, it comes back twofold. And I think, so many times, in the NFL or players, they'll give, but they'll want a little something in return. And it's trying to keep it pure. No, just give to give. And I think that's the lesson. That's what Zaire Franklin does. He's a special teams player. He gives his heart and soul to the team and to the special teams. He's on defense, and he gives to the younger players, and he gives to the defense and to this team. And so to me, it's not surprising that he's having some success come back twofold, because that's what he does. And I think that's the biggest lesson with our guys is just give. I'm struggling right now, I know, but just give to this team and watch and let it come back twofold, and expect nothing in return. And if I'm retired in 20 years from now, hopefully, or whenever that time is, and I would always say, hey Z, I'm going to share your story. Is it okay? Because what a great lesson to teach younger players, right? Just give to the team, give to the defense, give to your teammates, and it should come back twofold. And he's a classic example of that.
Kevin?
Gus, when you look back on the week one meeting, I know you brought up how your corners are different from that matchup, but what are some of your takeaways from what you learned from week one?
Yeah, I think we've got great respect for their receiving core, great respect for the quarterback in their passing game. They do a great job scheming, trying to get guys, with matchups. So, it's a difficult task. They've got a lot of weapons, the running back, the running game. So it really stretches you on all facets of the game, the run game, the pass game, the play action, the RPOs. They have it all. So we're just going to have to do a good job. It's challenging because they'll take shots. So we got to stay in lead position, but they'll also run deep comebacks, where you got to, transfer out of that high RPM mode and be able to play that. So it's a challenging week for us, and especially on the perimeter.
We'll go back to Thomas.
Yes, Gus, you held the Titans to 1 for 8 on third down after their first drive. Was there anything in particular that showed on film that can better describe how the defense was able to get off the field so well?
I think we just, competed in those situations. We had some good fortune come our way. We were able to affect the quarterback. I know we had 1 sack, but a guy like Tyquan Lewis had multiple, affecting the quarterback, whether it was hits or batted balls. So, I know the numbers may not show there, but again, I think we were able to affect him and have him make quicker decisions.
Few more, James.
Gus, obviously the huge 4th down stop from Zaire and DeForest Buckner. How much do you think a play like that maybe embodies what your defensive identity is? And then what was it like to just see it unfold in real time and be like, okay, wow, like exactly what we wanted to happen. We made it happen when we knew it was like, mano a mano type of thing.
Right. I think has to be a mentality down there in the red zone that, even if you give us an inch, we have to protect it. And, when there's times and places where you got to take a shot, hey, everything, you recognize the formation, you recognize the play, and you take a shot. And I think at that point in time, it was, we were lined up heavy in the front and, guys took a shot. And they felt the play and they reacted quickly. So, as a combination, I think they just, recognized it and played fast on that play. And 4th and 1, that's tough, especially with a back like that. So, that's a credit not only to Zaire, but if you look, Buck played it really well as well.
Joel?
Gus, how much of what you guys are doing right now is trying to figure out a way to get quarterbacks to hold on to the ball so the pass rush can get home? It feels like the pass rush has done a pretty good job, but teams are trying to get it out fast on you. They
are. And I think Jacksonville does a great job of that, and I think you always try to game plan. You're finding ways to affect the quarterback. At times, we're looking to at least make him hitch where he can't go to his first option. If we can take that away and he can hitch, and then we, talk to our D-line, if we can get him to hitch on the back end, then we need to find a way to get home, so, but it's difficult, quick game and things like that. This team is, he throws with a high completion percentage. So it'll be a difficult task this week to get him to hitch.
Last question for Nate.
Yeah, we've talked about how you've trained both Julian Blackman, Nick Cross at the nickel a little bit. They have a little experience there. Have you looked at all into maybe playing them in that spot? Is that maybe an option you have to manage just some of the injuries you have at the outside corner positions? Because I know Kenny can play outside a little bit too.
Are you talking about both Julian and Kenny, or Julian and Nick, or just Nick?
Both of them are like either of them like nickel options at times. Do you think?
Yeah, I think we're really pleased with Julian right now. He's playing really well for us right now. Nick has been cross trained. Nick could play free, strong, nickel, so he's got the flexibility for us that we kind of trained him for. If something should happen, that we need to look at him as an option. Tony Brown's doing a good job as a backup nickel. I think if, hopefully nothing happens, but if he had to go in for a play or two, I don't think we would, blink. I think he's a guy that knows the system pretty well, but to have that depth there, but I think something would have to happen in order for, a couple of injuries or something like that for us to consider that.
That's Gus Bradley. You get the idea that Gus Bradley's kind of fun to work with, that he enjoys his job. And I like that. When people enjoy their jobs, they tend to do their jobs a little bit better. We'll see if Gus Bradley does his job better this Sunday in Jacksonville. Colts trying to win at Jacksonville for the first time since 2014. That's 9 years. They should have won the season opener at Lucas Oil Stadium, but now they put themselves in a position where they've got to even the scales, right? You can't go down a game in the AFC South and give away the tiebreaker to the Jaguars by going 0-2 against them. You need this win. You go 4-2, you pick up this win against the Jaguars, all things are possible, and that defense is going to be a big reason for that.